It all started out with a jingle, and here we are, 100 into it.
We're here for the health of it.
For the health of it.
All right, I need you guys to reenact it.
We're here.
I don't want to ruin it. It was literally one time we were sitting there with Dave Feely on our very first time.
We said, we got it.
We said
that was remarkable.
We said we need a jingle. And we were like, what do we do? And we said, let's just roll with it. And literally, first time I just started saying whatever I sang, and you hit a high note. And then Dave was like, you guys are not using that. And we're like, no, we are using it. It's perfect. And he said, you absolutely are not using that. I will stake my reputation on this and quit if you guys use that.
Joke.
And we basically just had to play chicken with him and say,
like, you're
either quitting or you're putting that on there. That's a fair assessment. And he put it on. But I think he snuck it in. Like, he would sneak it in the back. It was never... It was never fully on there.
We had it at the front for a couple, and then it's ended
kept
at the back.
pulling it out of there. Yeah.
Randy, I need to hear your part.
I can't do it anymore.
Yes,
That was years ago.
That was high testosterone.
Years ago. I was training for that. Just kept pretending like it was.
His testosterone's low.
We're here.
That was good.
I know.
All right.
I still hit the highs.
We're here. Here.
There it is.
Here for the health of it.
Dave, your first producer, said absolutely not. We're not putting it on. Got in anyways. Has stood the test of time. Still there.
Yep. We had a wrestler, and we had a wrestler on for our first time.
I was gonna say your very first episode was a patient. Is that how it all started?
He was Brittany Queen's friend, and we figured, this is a health podcast. Let's get a professional wrestler.
And I don't know if most people know this, but your podcast, you guys teased it for April Fools. Like, we're not starting a podcast.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Just brilliant marketing.
I mean, just pictures of us hiding in the bushes.
Like, we're just telling you we're not going to do this. And then we launch.
Who took those pics? Was Dave taking those pictures too?
That's what I was going to say. I'm thankful for Dave.
Yeah, he came into us in a weird spot.
He got everything set up, mind you. We got rid of all the equipment that he said was great, but he got everything set up, everything rolling. He had to deal with us, which in that room, remember how hot it was?
Oh yeah,
he was soaked.
Yeah, it was hot,
sweaty.
Well, we started. I mean, we've done this podcast in a million different rooms.
You want to walk through all the different places the podcast has been hosted, or all the different people who have produced this show
so many.
since it first started?
People probably don't realize this that are listening, how many different places
idea.
We've done this podcast in.
Right.
Because our quality's been so high throughout. If you go all the way back to 1 to now, it's just looks the same.
I started my email when Brett asked for some best of memories. I said the first 21 I didn't listen to.
That sounds
I said
right.
until they started listening to me and had on my first favorite guest, which was Karis from The Workout. And then I was
She was good.
And then I was 22.
Yep. And then Ashley Russell, you pushed hard for too.
Yep.
She was a big
So we're
guest.
going to go into all of my favorite guests and all the people that I wanted on the show.
Yep.
Let's take it back to the beginning. Where did this start? How many places have you guys been in?
Do you remember the first ever that I remember was I think you still lived in Canada, and we had old mics. This is pre-Dave.
Yes.
This is me and you, laptop. We're in the massage room, pre-massage room at O'Neill Court, right?
I remember it.
I think we had a fold-out table, and you were this is how Randy operates. He's like, we just got to record. We just got to do this, and then we're going to get good at it, and we'll figure it out, and we just got to record. And I'm like, no, like, we can't. And I'm all nervous on, like, what are we going to say, and what do we do? And he's like, I'm just pressing play. We're recording this. And I think I still have the picture that you were just in town. I don't think you fully moved here.
I may not have.
Like 2018, 2019.
Yeah, it was 20. It was probably August 2018.
Like you were in for like a couple weeks.
I was here, but I
something.
wasn't official yet.
Yes.
And what did you guys talk about on? I don't even know about this. What did you
honestly,
talk?
I
Where
didn't
is
even
that footage?
No, we didn't even launch it. It was we just had to get inertia rolling. We launched nothing. Don't even know what we talked about. I think we then did another one with Brad Gorski.
Yeah.
In that same room.
You were hot
about
on
thyroid. Fasting.
I think you wanted to do like a 5-part fasting
That's
series.
right.
Because what people don't know, so Here for the Health of It, it's a great name. But it could have taken a couple different turns. Like for a while, you were like, maybe it'll be something health related, maybe it'll be chiropractic and holistic and functionally minded. And then you guys were like, nope, we're just gonna have a cool guest.
Yep.
From
That was the
Columbia.
vibe.
That was a big thing. Because
Local.
there's people who were not from Columbia that we wanted to have, but we just shut them down.
Like there's people you just see on Instagram or around town. You're like, it'd be great to just meet them and kind of see how they live their life, learn from them. How do they operate their business? Why isn't that just something that we do so that people locally can hear about them and hear their stories and then promote their business?
Yeah, that's the best part is so many people who I'm so curious about. You guys have in the show, and they like talk about their life and their business model and their business that you're like, how'd they get that cool real estate
And
in
our
Divine
biceps.
Street? And
Don't
your
forget it. We
bicep.
always that probably is the number one word used over and over on the podcast. Like how many times do you think we said biceps?
I don't know. Brett, when Brett started working with us, one of the first things he said was how weird it was. he pulled me aside and said, it's weird how much you guys use the word biceps.
And tank tops was for a long time too.
Yeah.
We were on a stretch of tanks.
Yeah, you started a whole Instagram account based on
Turquoise
Ashley
Tanks
Young's
Incorporated.
tank top.
Go follow Turquoise Tanks Incorporated. You will be pleasantly surprised by what you find there. It's Turquoise Tanks Incorporated, Surreal Estate Enterprises.
Yep. So then we had our second clinic, which we had this whole big spare room that we turned into a conference room. And then we used that as our podcast for probably 10 or 12 episodes, I would say.
Yeah.
We had this decompression machine that we then had to move
because we were getting an x-ray machine.
Because we were getting an x-ray machine.
So there was a time period where we moved from that room, one room over, to the small room, like card table style. It's now our current x-ray room at St. Julian Place.
Then the x-ray machine got put in, and we had to move to the third adjusting bay in St. Julian. We ended up moving out into the lobby of St. Julian.
Brett might have been
Brett
Brett
maybe moved us.
Yeah, he had the aesthetic.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
He knew what we were looking for.
The story of Brickyard is cool. So we came to look at this third location here in the Northeast. When it was still the chemical building, one of the first things Tom said when he walked in is which room's going to be our podcast room.
Because there's no windows right here.
That this was going to be the space and that it had to be a certain size. And you had all sorts of dreams for this room.
Yep. Started sketching on graph paper.
Well, and then this room, nothing barely moved on it. Maybe a makeshift desk. And then we had Tastiest Fit coming on the podcast.
Also known as Emily Blanchard.
Right. But
we set the date.
We did set a date. Here's the thing. Tom...
Don't throw me under the bus.
I'm not. You two threw me under the bus.
If anybody were thrown under the bus,
I will throw you under the bus. But I know for a fact the only reason this podcast room got finished was because Emily was coming on this show.
And Emily was a great guest. She was a highly anticipated guest. Tom had talked about having her on the podcast for a long time.
I said, we're waiting until the room is finished.
And he said, this is somebody who's got a great aesthetic. I'm not taking her into the lobby of Forest Acres or the closet. So he was like, when we get established at Brickyard, we'll have her on. And then he set the date, and then we landed but it wasn't just because she was coming on.
Who slid? Did you go into her DMs?
I might have. I think I did, or I've used sometimes I like to use the account just to make it not feel.
And then she responded right away.
She was great.
She was like, and then she had a great episode. And the funny thing is my cousin all the way in New Jersey posted on her Instagram. She has like 10,000 followers and was like, hey, you should listen to this episode. And I was like, how'd you hear about this all the way up in New Jersey? So it was cool. The episode made it a good distance.
And our other friend from Ohio follows her, and we didn't even know that.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
That's when we started to unpack Randall's oral fixation with phallic objects. But Randy doesn't like to put cylindrical objects towards his
you
mouth.
Talked about
it was a
straws.
banana and straws,
Right. And you were like, And then it's only gotten weirder since.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, we've had some weird episodes.
Yeah.
I still don't think if somebody asked me if it's weird for a guy to drink out of a straw, I would still say yes.
You think Brett's a straw
I think
drinker?
a guy should always take the lid off and just
Brett's
drink it
got
like
a straw
normal.
over there.
Yeah, he's got a straw right
I
now.
think at some point the viewers have no idea what Brett looks like. They've never seen
the
man behind the podcast.
They've seen him.
Oh yeah,
he
you
got
did
on
come
there.
in that one time and talk about the audio quality.
I was trying to get people to vote for us, and they wouldn't vote.
He tried to get best of Columbia. We tried to get the podcast.
Spoiler: we're not the best of Columbia. Not this year.
Yet.
But next year.
Brett, and just to speak on locations too, we didn't mention when we were in the third adjusting bay, Brett was in the luxury lounge, we called it, but really was just a closet.
That Tom put the tiny like
For 3 years, it was called the Sketchy Room.
Yes, it was
And then
called
we
the-
rebranded it to the Luxury Lounge.
We had to rebrand.
and Tom built this tiniest desk on the wall.
Yeah.
You couldn't even fit a piece of paper.
Well, that's
on
all
it.
we could do. That's all we could fit back there. And then once it was the luxury lounge, though, it took off. I mean, I think that was a big part of. He saw the vision at that point in the closet, and then he turned this whole aesthetic.
And
which
the
was great.
only reason that closet was good was because you were closest to the Wi-Fi router, and your Wi-Fi was like semi-decent,
Yep.
as opposed to the other
The
side
only
of
spot where the
where
Wi-Fi
like
worked
you
well.
could barely work.
Mhm.
Brett's our current producer. Dave was our first producer. We
Yep.
alluded to all of that. Let's talk about the in-betweens. So everyone that came before Brett.
Yep.
So we had Dave, who started us all off, got things running. Then
Yep.
came Rachel.
Rachel 1.0.
Yeah,
Rachel,
she was
her
good.
her background was like in. She went to school for film and
Yes, she had like the 4-year degree, the
Lighting.
whole thing.
Yeah.
She
Just
was-
had never. I think she was straight out of school. I think we were first place that she came. I think she's at HBO Max right
Yeah,
now too.
she did. That's
Yeah.
where she left and went. So we propelled her career
And-
forward to
Yeah,
HBO.
HBO Max.
not only that, her husband won Spouse of the Year at the CFC. Christmas party.
That's
Yep.
true.
All right. Then came Sydney 2.0.
She was good. We were worried because Rachel got scooped up by HBO,
Right.
Yep. And there was
and things were getting good.
Right.
We thought.
and the job market, that was kind of at like the end of COVID where like everybody was just leaving their jobs constantly. And she was straight out of school, never done
Young,
it before, didn't even know. I remember meeting with her and being like, can you do any of this stuff? And she's like, I can learn. And we're
Yeah.
like, how about this? She's
Yeah.
like, I could learn that. We're like, can you do this?
You could see
I
how
could
good we are at interviewing. It was like, you can't do any of this. Great. You're
hired.
hired. You're producing the show.
No, the question was, do you think Dr. Tom could bench press 300 pounds?
Two-
and she
200,
said yes.
200. As long as you pass that question, you get it.
And I don't even think we asked her that. I mean, our metric for being behind the camera was that you could almost you didn't have to be able to do anything. You just had to be able to do a good job on the camera
Yeah.
and sit there and try to create what we're trying
Right.
to create. But you can probably see it in. I would imagine that if someone listened to all the episodes in order, which would take a long time, you
Yeah.
could probably feel differences in who was producing.
Yeah.
Oh,
it behind.
100%.
Yeah. Even on
100%.
Instagram, I think we got it. You could
Yeah.
tell.
Sydney 2.0 is in Florida now.
Didn't she
She
go to
got scooped
Ashley
up.
Home Furniture?
Yes, she runs
Ashley.
the social media for Ashley Home.
That's
We
what I
put her
saw.
in the old cocoon, turned her into a butterfly,
I
and released
mean,
her to Florida.
Those are two pretty good job.
I know.
Their CFC was their foundation.
Yep.
All right. And then I don't ever remember Addison and Madeline.
Addison was just was working at our other clinic, and we just said, "Hey, do you think you can
Press
record
play?
a podcast? Essentially press play and then press upload." And she was like, "I can learn that." And
Perfect.
we're like, "Okay." And then same with Matt. I think Madeline was the same thing. Do you
Yeah.
remember how many Madeline did? She probably did two or three.
Yeah, maybe she again. They were like filling people. It
Yeah.
was just like we got to guess. We have nobody to do it.
And then Randy's niece came.
Then Dalen came. She came all the way from Indiana. And we were in the process of, I think we'd already interviewed Brett once.
Yes.
And he told us, I'm getting married. I'm
turned
moving
us
to
down.
Tennessee.
Yeah.
I'm not going to be here. And Tom said he's coming back. And I
said,
said,
"That's
I
our
don't-"
guy.
I said, he just literally said no to us.
Yeah.
And you said, no, he'll
I
be back.
remember when Brett told you no,
Yeah.
it's not the right season. And I was like, that was a gentle letdown.
I kept his
And you-
resume
and you
because
were
he
like,
had
it's
his
not, he's coming back.
yeah. He had his beautiful little portrait on there that he edited.
I killed it with my resume.
Your
It was
resume.
awesome.
Yeah, but the guy showed up in a hat, which we talked about in a previous
sweatpants.
episode, in sweatpants.
To his
And
interview.
And we talked about. I was like, "What is this guy?" So when our staff put you guys in the room, if you ever interview with us, we get a quick little rundown, like a quick little descriptor of like, are your jeans ripped? Are you late? Are you what's the vibe that we're walking into? And Brett's was like, yeah, the guy who shows up in a hat and sweatpants. He's like, they were like, do you want to even go in? We're like, I guess let's. And then it turned out once we talked to him, it was like,
He's wearing
this
a
is the
hat
guy.
and sweatpants today.
I know, it works.
It
That's
does.
that's what we realized.
It's his aesthetic. It's his vibe.
But he's our only staff that we just lock in a room and don't let
Yeah,
patients
that's a
see
good
him
point.
either.
It's a good point. That's the luxury lounge. Yeah.
The other thing that has quite the long list to it is all the adjectives you've used to describe this podcast over time. Can you name any of them besides Columbia's hottest and fastest growing? What were some of the other ones?
Sexiest.
Hottest
That
stuck.
was obvious.
Yeah, hottest just stuck because it was so good. Classiest was always on there. But I think it got up to 16 at some point. Hi, everyone. Welcome to Here for the Health of It podcast. This is Dr. Randy and Dr. Tom, and we are Columbia's hottest, best, fastest growing, juiciest, most prominent, classiest, most distinguished, sexiest, most reliable, most lit, most fetch, most dope, flashiest, most eccentric, hippest, and grittiest podcast in Columbia.
Did you go 2 today?
I did an extra one, but last time I accidentally used the same adjective twice, so I skipped it this time. There was a point when it was so many that where I was just like, it's like the joke is played out now.
The joke is done.
The guest would sit there for 30 seconds, and
I
they
would
knew
pull
nothing
out a
about us.
notepad.
Randy
Yeah.
wouldn't introduce the guest, but he would certainly go through all
I
the
would introduce
adjectives.
ourselves.
Yeah,
Yes.
they wouldn't know anything about us, and that was like for a while. It was like the most awkward. Like I'd just be kind of like looking at the guests, like, all right, how are they taking this? Because if you don't smile at that, like I was just like, this is gonna be
It's
a weird
funny.
shit.
And I learned a lot of new words too that I had no clue about. We had some of the younger guests telling us what the cool words are now. Like tea. I just heard about tea. Give me the tea.
You just heard about tea?
Yeah.
No.
You know what that is?
Yes.
It means like gossip.
Yeah, but that's like not a new
Tea time.
Like that's not a new.
It's not a new adjective. It's not an adjective
No.
that we would use on the show, but it's an adjective that I just learned about. I don't think people will be surprised at who the top ones are. I'm going to start with number 5 though. So Lori Lapine, the fitness trainer, is our 5th out of 100 guests. She's our 5th most downloaded podcast.
And she's Strong Foundations over in Forest Acres.
Yes.
Yes.
Personal trainer. She's got her own place, does amazing. My wife. And so her husband, Rob Lapine, was on here as well.
And she
Beat her
killed
husband.
him. Blew him out of the
And
water.
she destroyed him in numbers, which I don't know how. I'd be curious how she did it, but I think she just has a big following at her gym. They must.
Yeah.
And I think she can do more push-ups than Rob.
And she has a pretty good, one of my favorite takeaways from her episode was she said, like, do in the decade before
Yes.
what you want to be for the next, like, set yourself
I
up
still
for the
think about
next
that.
decade.
Yeah.
That was like a great takeaway from that. Like,
How you live in your 30s sets up what your 40s will look like. How
Right.
you live in your 40s sets up 50s.
right.
Yeah.
And if you look at Lori, I mean, she's in incredible shape. She takes such good care of herself. She's always moving, always active. She's a great follow.
All right. So number 4, Kelsey Carter and Margaret Deans from Camp Cole.
Yeah.
Boom.
They were
Great
big guests,
organization.
too.
Yes.
Awesome.
We ended up doing some follow-up stuff to raise money for them through Columbia Family Chiropractic, which was really cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I remember right when they did it, it was just like downloads and people were looking at it. It was awesome.
And I think so for those who don't know about Camp Cole, I think a lot of people thought like it was the camp. It's like it was just a camp that kids go to. I don't think they realized that it was like the facility that all sorts of little micro camps all throughout the summer get to host. So like all different nonprofits that are doing small camps like Camp Chemo. And then there's a bunch of different people who can use their facilities all throughout the summer. And that's having that space that's so like accessible is something that's not really available in most places, and the fact that we have it here in Columbia is such a cool thing.
Number 3, Kimberly Shirk, PA from South Carolina. I always say it wrong because it's so long. South Carolina Integrative
South Carolina
Center for Integrative Medicine.
Yeah.
Yep.
So the only other PA on the show is Megan Eisman.
Which
I don't know who
Megan
she
loved.
is, but
Megan loved that we had a PA and that Kim was number 1 for a while.
yeah, Kim crushed it.
She was just holistic minded. She hadn't opened up a center yet, but it was like, who do you talk to that thinks the same way chiropractors do, but is in the medical space? When Lindsay got pregnant, we started talking with Kim about essentially like, how do you do delivery? And we were meeting at her house. And I remember she had like this puppet thing that was like, I don't know if it was a vagina. Oh, no, it was a tongue. It was a tongue. Hey, this is a long time ago. I mean, she was just showing us like tongue tie stuff and things like that it was like to see where she's at now and going from like we drove to her house to now she's built out she's added on to her space over there.
She has 3, it used to just be in one building, and now she has like the adjacent on both sides. She has spaces.
Yeah.
So, and a ton of physicians work for her, and
And we've been sending patients for a decade.
Yeah.
I mean, just anybody and has a great Facebook following, has a great Q&A, like membership kind of program. If you are holistic and want somebody with a medical eye, she's great.
Yeah.
Her whole team.
she does a great job. And on her podcast, on her episode, she talked a lot about just knowing that good balance between like when to intervene and when we can really like, first exhaust holistic measures, which I think a lot of people in Columbia and the surrounding areas are really looking for. Someone who gives them that balance.
Number 2, Emily Blanchard, Tasty Abs Fit.
Woo.
Knew it would be a big episode.
Yeah.
And the top 2 are almost in their own category by themselves. So Emily Blanchard's a pretty close second, but she's been gaining a lot of ground because she was launched obviously quite a bit later than the number 1. Tons of people, especially Instagram. Instagram went crazy, right? We had all kinds of followers and comments and things.
I think over 100 followers from just her.
Within a
100
week.
people.
Yeah,
Yes.
in a week.
Yeah.
And she's
Great
it made me
content,
think
likable,
Yes.
fun.
And the real deal, I think, on Instagram, where she didn't buy her followers, which is what just drives me crazy. But so many
100%.
people were listening, watching, sharing, liking. They're real people.
It was a really good episode. And I love the idea that she's thinking about wholesaling and like having
it's happening.
like all around town, like having different spots. So it's not just at like her storefront. And then one thing that I really learned is that I had no idea was that her spot is the old Fleur de Lis, like baking, or like it was a test kitchen where you could like go in and learn how to cook things. And so now every time I go in there, I'm like, oh, I forgot that's what was here before you were.
I was surprised she eats meat.
Yeah.
That
she's
was
not
the thing.
vegan.
I was like, whoa.
That was shocking. I was surprised when I asked her about her aesthetic and she acted like she had no clue what I was talking about.
The best is we're talking about like health and nutrition and all like stuff she does. And then Randy goes, you get a question about men's fashion.
Her food is good. I mean, her
We're like,
food
hey,
is
your
great, but
everything
she's
about
got a
your
good
restaurant,
aesthetic.
It's great. But I want to talk about men's fashion. I don't know if you're prepped for this.
Number 1 is attorney Eric Bland.
Greatest clip in podcast history happened with Eric Bland.
And we hit it just at the perfect time.
He's in the middle of the Murdaugh trial where everybody's just trying to scoop up as much information as possible. And then we got the biggest guest.
And we knew almost nothing about the
was-
trial.
no,
all of our staff were like, oh yeah, I've listened to 400 podcasts about the Murdaughs. And we're like, we don't
That
know what it
morning,
is.
Tom said to me, remind me what's going on in this
Yeah.
again. That's the beauty of Eric. He can just like tell a story and go. In fact, when they had the Netflix documentary, which he was on,
Need more Eric
I
time.
needed way
Guy's
more Eric
60
time.
years old and just dialed.
Right.
Just bench pressing,
He's still
squatting,
lifting.
deadlifting.
Doesn't even drink coffee. Little do we know, we launched his podcast career.
He has a podcast.
I know
and
now.
I
we
need to
launched
start
it.
listening to it
Mhm.
because I think he's a great story. Like I want to hear all the
Unbelievable.
other things he's talking
He
about.
was excited. He was like, I got to get behind the mic like us. And we were just, I think we're his heroes. I think we would go as far as saying we're his podcast heroes.
I would agree with that. Yeah, I think you're right. I mean, I don't want to fully speak for him,
Yeah.
but I think you're right about
I
that.
think we know him well enough that we can.
Yeah.
Now, and then the best story that he launched was my golf shot. I just had Brett clip that out so I can send it out to all my guys groups because he goes into 2 minutes of incredible storytelling about the greatest golf shot he's ever witnessed.
And when I saw the recording of it, he like closes his eyes and
Yes.
starts like
He
envisioning.
remembering
the
it.
emotion.
birdie you've ever seen at Wood Creek?
Guy named Tom Stetson.
Yeah.
I'd heard
Attractive,
about
handsome
him,
guy.
very handsome man. I'd heard about him that he was a good golfer, and I got paired with him in a foursome, and he was just incredibly jovial all day.
Charming.
He was personable, warm, great guy, good stories. 18th hole, the clubhouse is on the right. We both bust a drive. I'm in the middle of the fairway, and he's next to the tree to the right of the sand fairway bunker. And impossible position, impossible. In front of him are at least 20 pine trees, and they're all jigsaw puzzled. It's not like there was an open space. Nobody could say, I'm going to hit it through that 12-inch space. He's up against a tree and literally has no swing. Now, he's a big, strong man, and he hits a shot that you don't hear wood. And you say, oh, my God, the ball got through. And then the way the hole contours to the water, the ball hit perfectly on the downhill slope, and it rolls and then starts rolling up to the green, and it's 2 feet from the cup. And he taps it, and that's not a hole that under the best of circumstances you can birdie. It's the second hardest second shot hole on the course other than number 2. It's the greatest birdie I've ever seen.
God, it's good.
It's a lot of detail.
Memorable moments. Brett, do you have things clipped out for us?
Hi, I'm Dr. Allison. I have been on this podcast twice as a guest, and outside of mine being my favorite episode number 28 with Jessica Van was probably my other top episode. She's a sex therapist. And the favorite, why it was my favorite was because I was running whenever I was listening to this and I just could not stop cracking up. She did an amazing job. And it was just so funny because I could hear the uncomfortable voices of Tom and Randy. And I just thought it was incredible. The content she had was incredible, but just listening to how they were receiving that content was even more funny. I wish, congratulations on 100 episodes. I wish you guys more of the hottest and juiciest episodes to come.
And so I have colleagues who are sex therapists and also sex workers.
I had to cover this up because she has dildos out on the screen right now.
Randall keeps looking at it too.
Adult film company.
How you doing?
I remember when she walked in, she was like, "Hi, nice to meet you." And she was like, "Is it like I brought a couple of like props? Is that okay?" And I was like, "Yeah, that's fine." And the thing she pulled out of her bag and set on the table in front of me, I was like, I did not expect this.
I know.
Hey, my name's Trip Cox. I am the massage therapist here at Columbia Family Chiropractic. My favorite episode would have to be the one with Dr. Tim Losby, where Tom, Randy, and Mr. Losby were talking about sunning the perineal region of their bodies to increase testosterone output. Cannot say that I've done it myself, but sounds interesting.
Well, I'm hearing about a lot of people who they say your butthole needs sunlight.
I haven't heard this.
I know that you've seen this before.
I have seen it. I have.
They basically get naked on their porch and they just expose their butt to the sun.
No, I haven't done
Anyways,
that.
all right, go on. Keep rolling.
All right, yeah,
Roll
keep
the
rolling.
next
These are
one.
good.
Let me find when it starts, but this one's about coffee enemas.
Timmy almost cracked
I've
the
never
top
done it.
5.
Oh,
Yeah,
the actual
yeah,
two.
yeah.
Oh, couple feet. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's not the part that the whole couple feet doesn't go in.
No, but how far?
Probably,
Like, how
it's
far up does
I think
it
it's
go?
like 18 inches is the thing. And they put it in like 12 or 8 to 12.
Oh no, I would put in like 2 inches. Really? You've done one before, right? So you put in 12 inches. Jesus,
You have to keep fishing it in. It has to get up there pretty.
I don't know how many
You might.
inches. I might be doing it wrong, guys.
Someone's doing it.
I got bad advice out of the get go.
Oh man, Tom, you.
Well, I got
12
bad
inches.
advice because our friend Peter put in the thick, like the one that's like vaginal. Yes.
Good lord.
So that one was this. It was only like 4 inches long, but it was like the size of a quarter thick. And he told me that's what you put in the butt, and I was like, this can't be right. So then when I found those things, I think they're 18 inches, and you're supposed to go like pretty deep.
So I might be doing it wrong.
That's always been my
Shoved it in about
concern.
2
Is
inches.
Nobody knows.
who would be
Nobody
the coffee
actually
enema
knows.
expert?
Should we look up online once
I mean,
and for
Tim
all
would
how
be-
deep it should
We
go?
should. We should. Because
All right.
Tim would
I mean,
be the coffee.
18 inches.
18
I mean,
no.
obviously,
That's
how
my-
long do you think 18 inches is?
No, the thing is I think they sell them in 18 inches, but I think you
Insert
put
the
like
tube
8.
12 to 20 inches into the rectum.
Thank you.
Slowly in a rotating motion to keep the tube from kinking.
And you don't know how deep it really is. Like once you get past the hard part, which is just getting it going, then it's just like you're kind of inching it along. You're just
So you know what you do for that?
What?
You take a permanent marker, you measure out 18 inches, and then once you can't see the black line on the tube anymore, you know you're in.
Tim must have a really tight butthole to keep it in 2 inches because that doesn't seem like it would stay.
You should ask him.
Tim might be our most loyal listener. He
Tim-
texts
He listens to everything.
after every episode. He will text and tell us.
And if it doesn't launch properly on a Wednesday, I'll also get a text first thing Thursday
Right.
morning. Hey, your episode didn't launch yet.
Stephanie Williams was a great podcast.
It was a great episode. She was. And since then, she's taken Randall's family photos, which were beautiful. And then Tom and I wanted to copy, and so we just had ours done. You know who listens? This is a test if she's listening to this episode, but Tara Monroe, her husband Kellen owns Captain Draft.
Oh, he was a great
And
show.
he was on this show, and I always talk about your episodes while I'm getting my facials, and then she'll text me when she's listening. She'll be like, what? She thinks it's hilarious, the ridiculous things you two come up with. Emily Blanchard, if you're listening, I want to be your friend too.
Going off the Here for the Health Food podcast was an absolute blast. But the best part was telling Randy that he ran a slower marathon than Oprah.
It's mind blowing that Oprah could run a 4:30. I
Something
still
sa-
don't
yeah,
know
it
if I
sounds
fully
fishy.
believe it.
I mean, you were in rough shape for the last 6 miles, maybe more.
Oh,
And he was mad. Like we tried to come and like cheer you
I didn't
on,
want
and
anyone
you didn't want
talking to
anyone
me
to talk
or
to you.
anything.
Everybody
Yes.
was finished, and he had another lap to go.
Yeah, I mean, people probably waited 40 minutes
Yeah.
for me to finish. You had to either give birth again or run a marathon. What are you choosing?
Give birth every time.
Really?
I've run a couple half marathons and I cry at the end of it. I can't imagine them being like, "Oh, you have to go do that again."
Yeah.
I'd rather give birth.
That probably went through my head when I was finishing that marathon. That
But
this
I
is
will-
way harder than childbirth.
But I will say, this: running a half marathon was excellent prep for having a baby. The mental game you have to run that long is like it's because it's an endurance game, and like, and you just can kind of equate childbirth to it. And so that was I'm glad that I had done that a couple of times before I had had a baby.
Hi, this is Kelly from episode 69. I enjoy listening here for the health of it because I get to learn about new careers and businesses in the Columbia area. One of my favorites was the Kloss Spa. Fairly current episode, but it just stands out in my mind. Congrats, guys, and I keep up the good work.
So if someone lit grass on fire with the same intention as sage, would you argue that sage with good intention is better than a piece of grass with good intention?
I would, just because, the Native Americans told me that and they're much older than me.
If you know that it's grass and you still go through the same stuff, you would just think you could still have a good intention, but it's like, something's a little off. Just like the shirt you wear that looks like Lululemon that isn't Lululemon. You're like, all right, something just is a little off.
I was just asking the question. I don't know. I've never tried something like that with an off thing and told them that it wasn't. I still don't, it doesn't make sense to me. I've thought about that several times. So you're going to tell me
yes
that's on Randall's side.
Sage, in one side of her mouth, she says, it's not the sage, it's the intention behind it. And I said, all right, I'll burn grass with the same intention. And she says, no, that doesn't work.
Because I go back to style, and I think Ashley Russell would agree with me, and that's why I don't know why you're agreeing with Randall.
Well, I'm only
You're
agreeing because I think you talk out of both sides of your mouth.
No.
Yes.
Because I think you're all about mindset. And so I think that unless the sage is giving off something like aromatherapy wise, or like there's some side, then yes, I can see that. But to say that like the mind, like you're all about mindset.
It's because it's possible. What he's saying is possible. Let me start with that. But something's missing, and the reason that sage became the thing, just like the whatever, Louis Vuitton is the thing, right?
We saw this morning in the Verizon store. Samsung has a phone that literally can fold in half 6 ways and open into a tablet. And Tom said, the product is better than what anything Apple has to offer, but the marketing Apple has.
And that's what shifts the mind. So if you can get around that and dial in your mindset that the purse is the same or the grass is the same, then it could work. That's why I'm saying it's possible. But I think you'll always feel like you just know this is grass. Like like she said, Indians.
I get it. I understand that.
There's some trust there.
Hey, I'm so excited that you all have reached your 100th episode. Congratulations to you, Tom and Randy. I've thoroughly enjoyed both times that I was on the podcast. I will say that although the first time I was very prepared to talk about trauma, I was not prepared to talk about who dresses my husband and what color tank tops does he wear, right? So if you were to even follow the page, I forget what it's called, like Turquoise Tanks Inc. on Instagram. Yes, we were a part of that.
I mean, the fact that Ashley packs matching clothes on vacation, number one, is wild to me. And then the fact that he was in a turquoise tank and the timing of it.
Yeah, Ashley Young, unreal. She was one of our first guests, and then she came again. And then her husband was on later when he started his health coaching business.
Here, I'm Elizabeth Paget. Dr. Randy confessing that he actually had his entire chest waxed back in high school. I mean, he's way braver than I am. So congrats, guys.
When I was younger, probably in high school, I got my chest waxed. My entire chest.
Wait, why?
I just didn't want to shave it. And my mom's friend did it. And I was like, I just want to wax my whole chest. And my mom was like, all right, are you sure? And I was like, yeah. My entire chest and stomach, the whole thing. And it was
Over
so,
the nips too, or do they skip the nip?
she did like right close. It was painful,
but enjoyable.
My mom was just dying laughing the whole time. So Dorinda, who did that,
which I love their names.
Her name's Dorinda. And the funny part is I picture them being about our age right now while this was happening, maybe a little older than Megan. And she was telling the story to somebody last week. She remembers it like it was yesterday. It was 22 years ago, and she's still telling people about it. It's amazing.
I mean, it's unforgettable.
And
it's one of those things.
Well, here's the thing. I had an esthetician, shout out to Courtney, who came and said to me, it's actually really common for men to do that. Don't let them feel like you're the only one doing that.
No, I don't think you're the only one.
That's what I said. I was like, I knew it was more normal than you guys were letting on. It's perfectly normal in the
Would you do it again?
world.
Let's be careful with the word normal. It's almost like saying like, yeah, I get the normal headaches. It might be more common than we thought, but it's still not normal.
Okay, I could agree with that. Yeah, it's more common.
How's your face, Reggie, going since you saw Jocelyn?
How's your skin?
Probably, I got it rated a 5.5 by Jocelyn in my skin.
Have you done anything different since?
All she did was confuse me, honestly. I have to go see.
She told
I have
you
to go
to
see
take
her.
a shower and wash your face after the gym.
Yeah, I do that.
And
I
then
have been doing
and
that
then
now.
at night.
Yep. And I do like a moisturizer lotion. And then I quit using the
sandpaper
I
scrub?
quit using that, but I think I need to use it again. I'm just waiting to decide.
What are your elbows looking like?
My elbows are great.
All right. I
How
see
is
a little,
it?
I mean, it's a little rough there.
Yeah, I just started playing hockey again. My elbow pads.
Starting
I need a new red
starting
for
to
that.
irritate them.
Mm-hmm.
Elbow routine. That's what everybody's looking at. They're
Elbows?
looking at elbows.
How are my elbows?
Good. I think that's, see, that's a good elbow. Feel it.
Tom, is there anything about you that's not
red.
good?
It's kind of red.
There's a lot
actually.
of things that aren't.
Let's see the back. Let's see your triceps. Oh, they're not. They're actually not as red as.
Yeah,
they
the
used to be.
routine. I got a routine now. Up the sauna, did a little dry brushing.
Have you changed the way that you wear shirts since Ashley Repsol told you that your nipples can't?
Oh, that
poke
was
through?
a great episode.
Yes, she blew my mind. Thank you, Ashley, for that. Ashley, if you're listening, thank you for freeing me. I like to wear my shirts half a size too small for my arms, but
Your
it means that
biceps.
my nipples are always pointing through. And I still remember her saying, if Jennifer Aniston can do it, then you can do it. And it was the greatest answer I've ever heard.
Randy's nipples don't have to get hard because they stay hard. And the best part of the show was that we put up a picture, covered all of our faces of our team, and had her rate everybody without her knowing it was us.
Right.
And she
I
just
don't know
tore
how
up.
she felt that.
She said, it looks like that shirt is from Gap off the rack. And I
you
said,
thought it was like, thank you. You were like, that's a good.
yeah, I
Thank
thought
you.
it was great. I was
You
like,
threw away some clothes after that.
she's like, no, do you understand what off the rack means? And I'm like, I don't know what that means. And I still don't. It means it's not customized to me. Is that what off the rack means?
No. Off the rack is all the clothes that didn't sell at the regular store. So they're
Oh,
like,
that's off the rack.
They send them as like overstock.
They're customized to Lee Thomas's body.
Do the listeners know that you have a friend that's a perfect medium?
I
think you talked about it
Yeah,
on
we
that
told
show.
her that.
Yeah.
Kind of cool.
Which is not a medium anymore.
No.
He's a large now.
How about Kai Kroger getting into football season here?
As a stud.
When we looked, before the show, I think he was only like top 5 punter, and now I think he's number 1.
And his NIL deals right now, when I follow him, they're through the roof since we brought that up with him.
Yeah. Actually, shout out Chloe at Wildwood. She started following the podcast because of how much we built up Kai Kroger.
Really?
Yep. She just told me the other day. She's like, oh, yeah, Kai
That's a
Kroger.
great reason to start following our podcast.
No brainer.
And speaking of NILs, and your friend Perry Parks,
Oh, boy.
and the singing as he opened up his episode, dying
Yes,
laughing,
that was
crying
good.
laughing. I was feeling
Was it
gassed up.
Casey and JoJo?
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Yep.
When you're
Well-
around Perry, he's good. This guy's got good energy.
Well, it was a note out of your notebook. Start recording. And then just use what you can get.
Just roll with it.
Which
Yep.
is how we got onto the topic of penises on our laser episode.
Good
point. That's a good point. We should
And
probably-
neither you or I brought it up. He brought it up. And then we just went
Who
with
did,
it.
the laser guy?
The laser
Yeah, I
guy.
know.
Dr. Phil.
Yeah.
He said some people are using it off label for penises.
Yes.
And I said, whoa, 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 whoa. Let's get back on this.
You might go R&B on this.
All right. Yeah, that's good.
You might drop
something.
We might drop a track right after
I
this.
will never find another lover sweeter than you. Sweeter than you. Crispy.
We needed that. You need to put that in one.
Crispy.
Who was filming? Were you filming that, Brett?
Yeah, that was from the luxury.
Yeah,
lounge.
Perry pointed directly at Brett and said, "Sweeter than you."
That was my first episode.
That was your first time. So that was probably your first minute of your first episode. They
That's
started singing
great.
and Perry pointed at you.
And that's how Brett became Columbia's #1 videographer.
Mhm.
We got to shout that out.
Yeah,
Yeah. People can tell by the quality.
BrettCulver.com. Check him out.
We'll be at the Best of Columbia party. Brett will be
Yep.
there.
Yes.
Everyone
he'll
can
be
meet him. They can get your autograph.
We can't go on
So
forever.
little. This is how long.
No.
I mean,
The-
kind of.
What's that,
Pen.
6
She's
inches?
holding up a pen lid.
It's super.
I cried. I had to go off
they're
camera.
short. Long bodies, short legs. I gotta go. Knock it off. Knock it off.
Couldn't compose myself.
So you don't get paid.
No, only doing this podcast in hopes of endorsements.
I'm always just fascinated by
No.
it, like the number of Anna just couldn't handle it for a little while. There was multiple times where she said,
No.
Anna has a
just
great
stop.
personality. That's another one of your guests I would love to be friends
Yes,
with.
yeah, she was so fun.
Can we show up to the Wiener Dog Walk?
I think we should.
No, I think it's her. No, her job is to keep people who don't have a wiener dog away from the
That's
wiener
how it
dog
ended.
walk.
Was you just tell people all the time you can't bring your dog on
Yes.
a walk.
And I think she's doing the right thing. If
What if
Tom
we
and
dress
Megan
you
show up
up
with
as a
no
wiener
wiener dog,
Please.
what if
We
I
can put you
identify
in-
as a wiener dog and
Let's
you guys
put-
take me
let's
for a
put-
walk?
Can we put you in
That's
a
what
hot dog
it is.
costume
Put me in a,
with the
push
the
me in the
collar?
stroller.
That'd be good
be
press for
amazing.
them. It was great because Anna it was just kind of came out of nowhere too. Like we were rolling with just like a bunch of different businesses and different things at that time, and it was like, who's next week? Oh, she walks wiener dogs. She like runs a wiener dog thing. I was like, sweet, and it turned into like a really fun episode.
And she was so normal.
Yeah.
And it's not even her full-time job.
No.
Yeah.
She
Just
just
a hobby.
does it for fun.
Which-
Like Somalia, the country.
Right. But I always thought that that was not the way to pronounce it.
Yeah, I don't drink wine. I don't really get into wine or any of that stuff, and the fact that I could just pick that out.
She sold me a little bit on that. I always thought everything wine was fully BS. People just made it up, agreed with each other, pretended like they tasted something,
This
and then
tastes like
agreed on
tennis
it
balls.
and paid too much for it.
Yeah.
But there was things where she said, "Oh, can you tell if that's a little sweet or a little bitter?"
Yeah.
I could tell. I could
Yeah.
tell. But not during, like, if you're still drinking wine during dinner, like you're having a bite of your steak and then you're having that. I don't know how much you can tell.
I think it elevates it.
I don't want my
I
palate
do.
to be that good.
But
I
here's
don't
the
think.
thing. All right. Not that this is about me, although I try and make it about me any chance I get. Emil from
Oh
Soda
yeah,
City Market, great episode.
He was great.
His book recommendations were great.
Yep, I bought one of them.
Javier from Ratio.
Ratio.
20,000 on a sign and a bootleg blender.
Mhm.
Who else? Who else was good?
I mean, here's the risk. If you say too many people, we
Yeah.
forget someone,
Yep.
then
Who have you forgotten?
you know who I should bring up. So Anna, the Wiener Dog Walkers, are 8th most popular, but Jada Samuel, she was Miss Columbia when she
forgot.
was here, and we launched her career into becoming Miss South Carolina.
Another one, taking people to the top, just
Yep.
coaching.
So Jada, if you want to come back now that we've got
Yep.
you to Miss South Carolina,
I think the
feel
people-
free to come
Yeah.
back.
The
She'll-
people need
next
it.
thing we know, she'll be Miss America.
If she wants,
If
to,
she
well,
comes
if
on
she
the
wants to
podcast
be Miss
again, then she
America,
would be.
She
Right.
knows what to do.
And come back again, Miss Universe.
Yep.
I mean, there's no end. If we're in your corner, there's no end to where she can get.
All right. So, what do you guys have in mind for the next 100 episodes?
Well, from the feedback we're getting, we want a little bit more like even pre-show stuff. But I think like when guests first get here, a little bit of that.
Would you ever expand it beyond Columbia? Would you ever have any outside guests?
That's not really what we want to do.
It's never crossed my mind to do that either.
Yeah, maybe as a separate thing. I'd like a law firm, maybe a bank, or an accounting firm, a gym. That'd be a great one, just to tell people about the gym. Probably the governor. Yeah, we got some big guests coming up. We got some big guests.
All right, well, stay tuned for the next 100.
All right.
Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.
Here
We're here for the health of it.
for the health of it.